Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. So, it is time to come to a deck that has been asked about quite a few times in the comment section here on YouTube and the Discord and on streams. I've been having people ask me, now that Chaos Ruler is banned, are we ever going to revisit Spright Synchro? The answer was always going to be yes, by the way. Always going to be yes. I was definitely working on this deck ever since the announcement of Chaos Ruler getting banned in Master Duel hit us. And believe me, it hit me very, very hard. But in any case, yeah, I've just been working on this list, and I feel like I'm finally in a spot where I'm ready to talk about it. And particularly, I am thinking about some of the leaks that have been announced lately on like Master Duel meta that I am thinking about for this deck in particular. I'll talk about that here in a moment. But first, I want to talk a little bit about the build overall and kind of demonstrate how it works. And I figure, what better way to initially demonstrate that than by showing off the combo that I've cooked up. So I mainly wanted to keep the deck build itself mostly intact as far as using Assault Synchron plus Spright monsters to add high-level synchros to our Spright end board. Namely, what can I still do with Assault Synchron plus Spright Blue? So let's see what we can do with that. Okay, so here we have it. I finally opened a hand with Assault Synchron plus Spright Blue. Well, tuning plus Spright Blue, but pretty much the same thing, you know what I mean? So gonna use tuning to grab us an Assault Synchron. Look at that. Oh my god, of course we end up milling the Nimble Angler, which is like literally the best card to mill off the tuning there. I'm not gonna activate it for the purposes of just simply demonstrating the combo, but obviously that would be absolutely insane here. So we can ignore the adventure stuff. We can ignore, obviously, the Ash Blossom. This is what you can get if you just open Assault Synchron plus Spright Blue, and how you can still add synchros to a Spright end board. So I'm going to start by activating the Assault Synchron's effect to special summon itself. Do keep in mind there is an inherent risk to that, because you can only summon Synchro monsters now while it's in a monster zone if you special summon Assault Synchron. Special summoning and activating Spright Blue in order to add us the Spright Jet, which I will also subsequently special summon and use its effect in order to add the Spright Starter. Lovely. Now we're going to summon our old friend Cupid Pitch using Assault Synchron and one of our sprites. And we are going to want to bump up the level to 6 here. Perfect. Now, let's Synchro summon the Accel Synchron Stardust Dragon. We're going to do that by syncing, of course, the Cupid Pitch and the Spright Jet. We'll throw that down right over here. Alright, we'll activate Cupid Pitch's effect, and then we'll also get the Accel Synchron Stardust effect. Cupid Pitch is mandatory, so it's always going to be Chain Link 1. We're going to bring back the Assault Synchron, and then use Cupid Pitch in order to add a monster with 600 defense from our deck to our hand. Which one might that be, you might ask? It's actually going to be Speedroid Terrortop is going to be the monster we'll add here. And funnily enough, Speedroid Terrortop's effect also works when normal summoned, so we're going to do that. But before we do that, I want to talk real quick about what exactly we're setting up here. Basically, in order to end on multiple level 10 synchros, I'm going to need multiple level 8 bodies. Accel Synchron Tributing for Stardust will do that if Assault Synchron is in the graveyard to bring back the Accel that tributes itself. However, Assault Synchron needs to already be in the graveyard in order for that to work. So I'll show you how we'll get it in there. We're going to normal summon the Terrortop and activate Terrortop's effect. This will allow us to add our Taketamborg, of course. Taketamborg can then special summon itself by its own effect. Now I'm going to Synchro summon the Accel Synchron using Assault and a Taketamborg. I want Accel Synchron to be level 2 for the purposes of still making a level 10 Synchro monster. So I'm going to activate the effect to reduce the level by sending a level 3 Synchron tuner monster. Right now, there are very limited options, and the best one for our deck is going to be Junk Synchron. Because if we top deck this, you know what? At the very least, it still has an effect that's relevant to our deck, right? We can normal summon Junk Synchron and bring back a 2, and then link them for Sprind or Elf. However, I was talking earlier about potential leaks and how the leaked cards might help this deck. Revolution Synchron is a level 3 tutor monster with a highly relevant graveyard effect that in the near future you will also be able to send for this combo line, greatly boosting the power of this combo line by giving you another body. But for the meantime, we just gotta send Junk Synchron. Again, we want to reduce the level to make it level 2. Now, we're gonna go for our first 10, but don't click Special Summon to do it. We're going to activate the Accel Stardust effect because now Assault Synchron is already in our graveyard when we activated the effect. And that's what we had to establish, right? Because if Assault Synchron is not already in the graveyard at the time the dragon on the field is tributed or banished, then the effect won't go off. Alright, let's grab our Stardust Dragon here. Alright, now we're going to summon Bystial Dis Pater using our Accel Synchron as well as Stardust Dragon. I'll throw it in this zone over here, why not? Now that'll proc the Assault Synchron effect as mentioned before. This will banish the Assault Synchron in order to bring back the Stardust. And hey, what do you know? Now we have a monster banished, so we can activate Dis Pater's effect to bring back that Assault Synchron that was just banished. And now we can summon Baronne de Fluer with the 2 of these. Throw it right here. Alright, let's make our Spright board now. I'm going to activate the Spright Starter. And let's special summon either Carrot or Red. I tend to prefer Carrot as my additional point of disruption because we already have Monster Negate in the form of Dis Pater, right? Now we can... From here, we're actually going to summon out our Sprind. Linking off Terrortop and Carrot. Remember that we are 2 locked moving forward, but now we get to send the Nimble Angler and activate Angler's F in order to summon out a couple of Sunfish here. From there, we'll pivot into the Gigantic. Again, we are already 2 locked, so... not that big of a deal to do this. Okay, Gigantic F. Oh, you know what? I actually did it in the opposite order. If I wanted Carrot on the board, I should have actually done Red first because, yeah, now we're going to summon out the Red here, so. Alright, from here, we'll use Gigantic and Nimble. Although, to be fair, we could still do it this way and just not make IP. It's kind of up to you if you prefer Red and Carrot or IP. I think Red and Carrot is probably just better, but again, totally up to you, however you want to do it. So there you go. There is a Spright board plus high-level synchros with Assault Synchron plus Spright Blue. Without the use of Chaos Ruler post-ban list, we are using a relatively similar main deck build for the same combo line to end up on the same board, which was ultimately my goal when crafting this version of the deck and constructing the combo line. So... now, one of the reasons I wanted to show off the combo line here is to not only give you an idea within the profile of how the deck likes to play out, but also because, I'm going to be honest with you, I actually did not manage to pull off the combo line during my ranked ladder session playing this deck. However, that does not mean we lost a significant amount of the time. It was about 50-50 the win rate. It was a little bit higher, so... but, you know, maybe somewhere in the neighborhood of like 55% maybe, but even though we didn't pull off that combo line, this deck doesn't need to pull off that combo line in order to have plays. Even without the Synchro stuff, Adventure Spright is definitely a highly, I want to say, like, boosted version of Pure Spright due to the release of Terrortop, right? And it might not seem obvious, right? Well, Terrortop and Taketamborg are level 3. How do they boost Spright beyond the combo line that you showed off? Well, that's what the Adventure package in this deck is for, right? So we can special Terrortop, add and a special Taketamborg, and then link them for Cherubini. Cherubini then sends the Water Enchantress, which then starts our Adventure line. That establishes not only the token from Rite of Aramesir plus Wandering Gryphon Rider for the Omni, but also a link to the Cherubini. That also doesn't use your normal summon, by the way. So it's not just that you can have a Spright monster and special it and make plays. If you have literally any level 2 monster with a Cherubini, you can link them for Sprind and then go for the Nimble engine and then start establishing that. The Nimble engine, by the way, so good in this deck. to the point where I'm actually considering playing a third Nimble Angler so that I can open it more often. That sounds really weird until you consider Fateful Adventure can send that Nimble Angler from your hand to the graveyard in order to add the Wandering Gryphon Rider. That establishes 2 level 2 bodies by itself on the board, and Angler is also not once per turn. So you can use those level 2 bodies, right? You can summon 2 Sunfish off your Angler discarded off of Fateful Adventure, go for the Sprind to send another Angler, and then summon your 3rd Sunfish and Beaver and have even more bodies. It's actually kind of insane, the amount of support that the Adventure Engine gives to this deck, and that the amount of support that the 3 Terrortops now give to the Adventure Engine. So, I will say, if I'm being totally honest, as much as I love Spright Synchro, I don't think the Synchro package is actually optimal. It takes up a lot of space for a lot of engine, to the point where I did actually go over 40 cards here to be able to play Drolls. I kind of did that with Adventure Phantomite as well. I was at 40 cards and I had all my engine, and I was like, I want to play Drolls too, what do I take out? And I was like, well, if I have this much engine, I'll just not take out anything and just add the 2 Drolls, right? But again, you could totally drop the Synchro portion of this deck, which is 7 main deck cards, as well as 6 extra deck cards, and just play Adventure Spright, which we've done in a recent stream, by the way, and that deck performed very, 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 very well. So I think that Adventure Spright as a thing in general has a lot going for it moving forward, and the Synchro variant, while cute, I do think is not necessarily the most optimal build. So while we don't see the Synchro combo played out in the upcoming duels, it will still demonstrate how Adventure Spright in general is still able to play well in this meta. But let's go ahead and break down this list card by card, and then we'll see those games. We're on 2 Droll and Lockbird, 3 Nimble Sunfish, 3 Maxx, 2 Nimble Angler, 1 Nimble Beaver, 2 Spright Blue, 1 Spright Jet, 1 Spright Red, 1 Spright Carrot, 3 Assault Synchron, 1 Junk Synchron, 3 Speedroid Terrortop, 1 Speedroid Taketamborg, 3 Ash Blossom and a Joyous Spring. We have 1 Water Enchantress of the Temple, 1 Wandering Gryphon Rider, 1 Foolish Burial, 3 Tuning, 2 Rite of Aramesir, 1 Dracoback, the Rideable Dragon, 1 Fateful Adventure, 2 Called by the Grave, 1 Crossout Designator, and then 2 Spright Starter. That's going to be our 42 card main deck. For the extra deck, it's 1 Cupid Pitch, 1 Accel Synchron, 1 Stardust Dragon, 1 Accel Synchro Stardust Dragon, 1 Baronne de Fluer, 1 Bystial Dis Pater, 2 Gigantic Spright, 1 Cherubini, Ebon Angel of the Burning Abyss, 1 IP Masquerena, 2 Spright Elf, 1 Spright Sprind, 1 Mekk-Knight Crusadia Avermax, and then 1 Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. And that'll do it for our list. Now let's go ahead and see these games. Okay, our first game is going to be against Super Heavy Samurai. These games were all played in Master, and we're definitely against some pretty heavy hitters of the format. We actually have a couple of games against Super Heavy Samurai. This is the first one. So here we get to take the first turn, and as you can see, we didn't open Assault Synchron or Tuning. However, we did open our Adventure Stuff, Terrortop, and Nimble Angler. This hand looks really weird and potentially dead, especially for a Spright deck. You might see a hand like this and be like, ugh, isn't this the exact kind of hand we don't want to open as Sprites? No, 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 no. This hand is extremely powerful. I'm going to show you why. Going to start with the Terrortop, activating Speedroid Terrortop in order to set up the Taketamborg. Especially the Taketamborg, I will then link the 2 off for the Cherubini. I'm going to use Cherubini to dump the Water Enchantress here anyway. This comes with its own inherent risk using the Water Enchantress like this, because I already have a Rite of Aramesir. So here's the thing, right? I did that mostly to potentially bait an Ash Blossom, but it's also important to recognize that we are in a format where Droll and Lockbird is everywhere, and that kind of bait can set you right up into a Droll and Lockbird. And in that regard, it might not have been the best idea to do that in this particular meta. You gotta keep that in mind when you're trying to pivot around certain hand traps. Keep in mind what's not only relevant a lot of the time, like Ash Blossom is always part of the format, but keeping in mind how you might be playing into some more format-specific hate or disruption there. But thankfully for us, they didn't have it here. We're just going to use Rite of Aramesir. Now I'm going to use Fateful Adventure and activate the effect to add Wandering Gryphon Rider and then pitch this Nimble Angler. Angler is going to activate. I'll throw on the Wandering Gryphon Rider here as well. Now we have the Omni established, as well as a couple of level 2 bodies. Faithful Adventure is going to add the Dracoback here. Now we get to link off the Sunfish and the Cherubini. This is exactly what I was describing earlier, right? Oh, except now they finally have the effect Veiler, which I'm just going to let resolve here. That's fine. We'll just keep the rest of the Nimble package for later if we need it. We can definitely just overlay what we have on board already, the Sprind and Sunfish, to go for the Gigantic. Gigantic's going to pull out the blue because we still have not done our Spright line yet. Blue is going to then add the Jet. We get the special Jet, Jet F for the starter. Linking these two off to summon us a Spright Elf. I'll throw it on the right just to be able to target protect the Wandering Gryphon Rider. Starter for Carrot. And then we get to bring back Sunfish, link it with a Gigantic for IP. Now, you might be wondering, Hex, why did you go for Spright Carrot? Are we in a format where Super Heavy Samurai is everywhere on ladder? They don't play any spell or trap cards. Wouldn't Red be better in this situation? I think that Spright Carrot, even in this meta, with Super Heavy Samurai everywhere, is still the way to go. Generally speaking, I find that when it comes to Spright boards, a lot of the board breakers that are going to really mess you up, and a lot of cards in general that'll mess you up when your opponent's going second, are spell and trap cards. So rather than have monster negates in addition to the Omni of Wandering Gryphon Rider, I like having the spell trap card negate, and that is true even in this meta with Super Heavy Samurai. While the deck plays all monster cards, it still does place, of course, Pendulum monsters in the scales as spell and trap cards. Those you can negate with the Spright Carrot there. So, alright, we're going to pass back over to the opponent here. So, yeah, I mean, this is a really, really good end board. This is an ideal Adventure Spright end board for what did not look to be the most impressive hand. Now, opponent's going to start by activating Wakashi. And again, you might be thinking, oh, you got to use Carrot on Elf now to negate and destroy this. But we actually don't need to. Instead, I'm just going to use Elf to bring back Blue. And then I'll wait for Wakashi to activate its effect. I don't like negating and destroying Wakashi before it's activated its effect. This is something I've talked about in my Super Heavy Samurai videos, because it's so easy for the opponent to like have another one in hand, or motorbike for another Wakashi and then just place it and activate it. So don't destroy it as soon as they place it. Wait for them, if possible, to activate the effect and then negate and or destroy it. Here, I'm just going to use Carrot, sacking off the blue to negate it. I don't need to destroy it. In fact, this makes things a little bit more awkward for my opponent. Now they have a dead Wakashi in the scale, and they're not really able to necessarily set up plays there if they have another Wakashi in hand, because now they can't put the Big Benki in the other scale. And as soon as they've used Wagon for the normal summon, I'm going to go ahead and fire off the IP here for the Underworld Goddess. Just go ahead and eat that now. Not have to worry about it. And then they just end up conceding, because, you know, I've played a lot of Super Heavy Samurai, and one of the reasons that I have played a decent bit of it was to not only, climb up, to master more quickly, but also to get an idea of how to play against the deck. So I know that if after a failed Wakashi, they're normal summoning Wagon, they are probably in pretty dire straits. It's probably the only other follow-up they have, because if you have Motorbike or Soul Piercer, you would always want to follow up with those next. But actually, again, by negating but not destroying Wakashi, we make Motorbike for another Wakashi not a non-feasible play, because the other Pendulum scale won't be open for them to place the Big Benki. And this is something I've talked about a lot before, but playing these meta decks is, in my opinion, the best way to get to know how to play against them. You get an intimately familiar sense of what the deck is trying to do, and that gives you the most effective way to then shut it down. So we have some other games to check out against some more meta decks here. Let's go to the next one. Okay, our next opponent is going to be on Branded Despia. I think there's a lot of contention right now if Baronne de Fluer or Super Heavy Samurai is the best deck of Master Duel right now. Of course, as we've covered in our recent video, that all depends if you're talking about ranked ladder or tournaments. So I'm going to use tuning here to grab an Assault Synchron, milling a Spright Blue, and this is exactly the kind of playing into Droll line that I was talking about earlier, right? Where in the past, I often do these kind of things just to kind of bait out an Ash Blossom, and to be fair, I did have the called by for the Droll here. However, moving forward, I do think it is important to make sure that we're not doing too many unnecessarily risky plays you know, when it comes to trying to bait out stuff like Ash Blossom, playing into stuff like Droll and Lockbird. I'm telling this more to myself, honestly, than to you all, because as you have seen already, there have been multiple times this play session where I felt like I was just playing right into these cards. So not even felt like I was. I just 100% played into Droll and Lockbird multiple times, well, I don't know about unnecessarily. You're gonna see why here in a moment. We actually milled a Spright Blue, so I'm going to add a Junk Synchron, and funnily enough, mill the other Spright Blue. Especially in Gryphon Rider, normaling the Synchron for the Spright Blue. Now, I hemmed and hawed here. I was like, is there any way I can sync Junk Synchron plus Gryphon Rider for Baronne, and then still go into a Spright line? Unfortunately, the answer is no, because again, if I special Assault Synchron by its own effect, I have to Synchro Summon while it's in the monster zone. I can't do anything else, so that means that I can't go Spright Blue plus Assault Synchron into, like, Sprind, right? So, I'll have to do that with Spright Blue plus Junk Synchron instead. Gonna use Sprind F to dump off the Angler, Angler F to summon out more Sunfish, or multiple Sunfish, rather, from my deck. Overlaying one of the Sunfish with the Sprind for Gigantic. Gigantic F is going to get the Jet, because we milled both blues, funnily enough, off of our two Spright Starters there. So, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to link off the Sprind and Jet for the Elf. Now, Elf can grab the blue back from the yard, and we haven't activated blue yet, so now I can use that to add red. Linking off blue and Wandering Gryphon Rider for IP. And now I can not only special red, but then I'll throw down the starter for the Carrot here as well. So, yeah, I mean, we got hit with the Droll, which we had the call by for, but, I mean, overall, that was just kind of an awkward hand, right? If we look back at it, it was, yeah, Wandering Gryphon Rider, Assault Synchron, double tuning and called by, which, again, this hand looks super, super dead, but one of the things that I really like about Spright Synchro is that even if your Synchro stuff doesn't pan out, it's not hard to pivot into Spright plays and just have a Spright board like this, which is definitely more than enough interaction to carry you through most games, right? So I wanted to Elf grab Jet here to get my last remaining starter. Even though I don't actually have any more Spright cards left in my deck, I just didn't want to top deck the starter. But if my opponent wants to call by the Jet instead, that's completely fine. Again, the starter it would have searched has no targets at all. Here, the opponent threatened to move to the battle phase, so I decided to go for the Mekk-Knight Crusadia Avermax here. This does allow them to summon the Quem, or use the Quem summoning effect, rather, to get back Albaz. I will negate and destroy Albaz using Spright Red to sack off the Gigantic. Definitely want to make sure it's off the field, so that it's a little bit more difficult for them to fuse with it. That way they don't just, you know, have, like, a fusion spell, or, like, special Cartesia, right? Okay, Druid Swarm is going to be annoying, not because it can get rid of Avermax, it can't because it targets, but because it'll get rid of Carrot. I was really scared they would have Branded Fusion, that they just slam it down here, but thankfully not. They're just getting Branded Beast and setting one after popping the red, which is like, whew, that was a huge relief. I was so scared that last card was going to be Branded Fusion. I got very lucky that it wasn't, frankly. But yeah, I'll just battle over Quem with Avermax. I'll set an Assault Synchron just to have a level 2 monster up for plays on the next turn. Opponent top decks does not get anything relevant, it seems. It doesn't seem like we do either, but I'm just going to use my 2 Assault Synchrons here. I mean, if nothing else, they're 2 level 2 monsters. Again, I had to get them on the board over the course of 2 turns because if I just special summon one of them, then I have to Synchro Summon. I can't Link or Exceed Summon, so yeah, I could have actually, if I really wanted to, I could have used the Elf for that Carrot, right, and not overlaid and just battled, and then on the next turn brought back Red. That would have given me Red and Carrot having 2 disruptions plus Avermax going into the opponent's turn, if I didn't want to risk OTKing, but I didn't think that face down card was going to be anything relevant. It wasn't anything relevant last turn, so I decided to just go for it and just end the duel here. And my opponent did ultimately end up conceding. So, good stuff. Got a couple more games to check out. Let's see the next one. Okay, here is our other game against Super Heavy Samurai. This one's going to be more of a back and forth than the other one was, as opposed to us just setting up our turn 1 board and calling it good from there. Going first, this hand is definitely not ideal. I have to set Sunfish and pass here. It's funny because you would think, like, it's got Assault Synchron and multiple 2s. Like, it's so close, and it really is so close, but it needed a Spright monster. If either Angler or Sunfish were any Spright monster, we would have been good. Actually, if Sunfish also would have been Fateful Adventure, that also would have been good to set up a Synchro board, because we could have gotten... Basically, you really just need Assault Synchron plus multiple level 2 monsters to set up the line. That's why I do Assault Synchron plus Spright Blue, because Blue goes into Jet to get Starter, and that represents multiple level 2 bodies as well as the pivot into the Spright line right then and there, right? But here I'm just going to set Sunfish and pass. And this duel will demonstrate why Nimble Sunfish is much, 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 much better than the Nimble Manta, which I see a lot of Spright players using Nimbles on, and I don't get it. I don't know why you would ever use Manta over Sunfish. Even without the Shadow Mosquito, check this out. Opponent battles into our Sunfish, right? We get to use Sunfish's effect, milling an Angler to summon a Sunfish. That also procs Angler, summoning our last Sunfish and Beaver. Look at that. Look at that. Our opponent battled into one face down level 2 monster, and now we have 3. Now we have 3 level 2 monsters going into our opponent's main phase 2. 3 bodies to work with here. That's so much. That's so good. I don't get it. I don't understand why you would ever play 2 Nimble Manta over 3 Nimble Sunfish. I mean, there is the case for if they have removal, but that's so specific. Like, if you're just, like, leaving these random Nimble bodies on the board, it's so much likely, I don't know, it's so much more likely they're going to get battled over, but in any case here, that tuning and milling the Fateful Adventure was brutal. Also, there's no reason for me to activate the blue there. It was totally not paying attention to the Baguska. But I will link off the Baguska for the Underworld Goddess. Despite milling the Fateful Adventure and activating the Spright Blue unnecessarily, we're actually still going to be fine here, despite those 2 kind of minor misplays there. I mean, you know, as minor of a misplay as they might have been, they are still going to impact the course of the game here. Opponent has a Veiler for the Accel Synchron. That's going to have to be fine, unfortunately. And they have the Nib as well. Thankfully, the Underworld Goddess is unaffected. And Assault Synchron actually gets to bring back the Stardust here because the Nibiru attributes it. Fun fact. Alright, moving back into their turn. They're going to draw normal summon Scales, but guess what kind of effect Underworld Goddess has? This is why I didn't crash the Goddess into the Nibiru. I wanted the negate for my opponent's main phase 1 here. Because I know that Super Heavy Samurai definitely has multiple card effects that will move stuff out of the yard. Got the Droll. I'm really glad they used Big Benki there. I mean, I don't think that was a misplay or anything, but if they had done Scarecrow, discard, add Soul Piercer, Soul Peacemaker to sack it, and then do the Soul Piercer search there, that would have been a lot more devastating if I would have had to have Drolled after that point. But because they did the Big Benki search first, they didn't get to do that line. So that was good for me. Very, very good for me. Okay, we have one more game to see. Let us go into it. And our final opponent is going to be on Exos Sister. Not quite as much of a top meta force as something like Sword Soul or Branded, but wanted to show off a going second game here. This hand looks great. We got C, we got Ash, and we got the combo line going second. So I'm actually going to use Ash Blossom on the Aratama here and not use the Maxi. The reason is I wanted to see if Maxi or if Ash Blossom would be enough to stop their turn by itself, because Aratama does use the normal summon, and without being able to add Sakitama, they don't necessarily have another play here. Plus, if it ends up being Math Mech and they try to activate like Subtraction or something, or if they link it to Almirage and then activate Parallel Exceed, I can just fire off Maxi then. And when I saw Aratama, my first thought was, oh, it's Math Mech, and this is their, they're on the Spirit package. They do get to thrust here, but then they reveal that they are actually Exos by thrusting for Vadis and then setting 2. That's pretty brutal. That's pretty brutal. The Vadis plus 2 face down cards. Alright, I'm going to start by activating the Assault Synchron. Vadis will then activate to summon out a couple of Exos Sister bodies. I'll cycle the C here. But I did actually think about starting by normal summoning Maxx, and then trying to special summon Spright Blue, to not have to special Assault Synchron and commit myself only to Synchro summoning, right? But then we also get into a world where they could potentially use, what is it, Returnia to banish my Maxx, and then, I don't know, things might end up going sour from there. So, improve on the blue means I have to pivot into the Cupid Pitch. I will increase the level here. I should have decreased it, actually. There's no reason not to. But yeah, my plan was to just battle here and hope they didn't have the Returnia, but they did. Naturally, they did. As soon as they said Vadis, I knew they were going to have Returnia, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a struggle. And sure enough, that is pretty much exactly what happened. I do still have my normal summon, though, so I'm going to normal summon the Assault Synchron and go for Sprind, right? Now, the Mekk-Knight, I can always forget this card's name. Is it Mekk-Knight? Mekk-Knight. It does still have the ability to banish, so I tried to bait it as much as I could with Sprind and then going into Elf, but nah, they were just waiting for Gigantic, so I was like, whatever. I'll go for it. I'll go for Gigantic, leave up the Sunfish. I should have left up the Elf. What was I doing? Huh, yeah, I don't know why I didn't do that. I really should have left up the Elf. That was a pretty big misplay on my part. Okay, so they're going to add another Returnia. I was really hoping they would add a Pax. That would have made this Droll and Lockbird more impactful. Wait, does Pax add or summon from deck? I actually don't remember, but yeah, either way, they're just going to end up having another Mekk-Knight here. They can use this new Mekk-Knight to banish the Sunfish. That's why I said I should have left Elf on the board. When they went to banish Elf, I could have chained to bring back Sunfish. But I guess to be fair, Magnifica can always just banish the Sunfish here too. Like, I'm going to try to use Starter to chump block with the blue, but nah, it ain't happening. It ain't happening. This is just going to be lethal here, so GG's to the Exos Sister opponent. Definitely showing that this deck is still a very, very rogue. It's a rogue deck, but it's still a very strong contender in the meta, even if, you know, it's not quite as powerful as when Tier Limit was at its most strongest. And then Exos Sister was like debatably almost a Tier 2 deck just for Tier Limit being around. But in any case, there are our games. Hope that was a nice showcase of the power of Adventure Spright as a whole. But in particular, I wanted to show off the Synchro build because I know people have been wondering and asking about it. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Would love to hear from you. That's going to go ahead and do it for this one. Let's for now just move on to the outro. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. That means a lot to me. It's also a great way to support the channel, so thank you very much in that way as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways, like the very special patrons that I am thanking here, you can do so by checking out some of the links in the description. One of those goes to the Patreon, where you can join these fine folk and support the channel that way. I do post daily content over on Patreon, so you do get something for support there. And if you're interested, I also have a coaching tier option as well. Details again will be on Patreon in the link below. Also in the description linked below is my Twitch page where I stream a few times a week. You can go ahead and check that out, follow or subscribe over there if you ever want to catch me live. You'll also find my second YouTube channel if you feel like subscribing over there to watch some of the Twitch VODs as well as some additional non-Yu-Gi-Oh related content that I make over there. Again, any of those links you want to check out is all a great way of supporting. But again, even if you don't do that, just watching was also a fantastic way to support. And once again, I have to thank you so very much. But in any case, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out, and I'm hoping you have a fantastic day.